is 10 o'clock, and the governor of the state of Minnesota has issued Executive Order 20-01 declaring a peacetime emergency. And on March 24th, 2020, the Pine County Board of Commissioners declared a local county emergency. Based on these conditions, the Pine County Administrator has determined that the requirements of Minnesota Statute 13.021 Subdivision 1 have been met, and it is not practical or prudent for all members of the county board to meet in person. The public is invited to meet via telephone, via web stream, or via WebEx. So I will call the organizational meeting of the Pine County Board to order and welcome everyone, and a special welcome and recognition to Commissioners Lovgren and Waldham, who are joining for the very first time. And I'd ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. The first order of business is to elect a board chair for the Pine County Board of Commissioners. Are there any nominations?
Mr. Administrator? Commissioner Ludwig, yes. I would like to nominate, I'd like to move, actually, I'll do it this way, that we keep and move for nomination that we keep our officers the same for 2021 as we had them in 2020. Based on the COVID situation and the proximity to the courthouse for signing all the documents is one reason. And another reason is the board has always been nonpartisan, so there's never been a power struggle or anything like that for our chair or vice chair since I've been here. And the board just, all the board does is try to do the county's business the best we can. So that would be my nomination and motion.
Okay, so there has been a nomination for Commissioner Holland to be chair and Commissioner Moore to be vice chair. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? And one final time, are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, I would ask commissioners all in favor of casting the unanimous white ballot for the two nominees to say so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed my cue. We have to do that by a roll call.
It's a new year.
I was letting you finish.
I only do this once a year, so I apologize. Debbie, would you please call the roll for the nomination for chair and vice chair?
Absolutely. Commissioner Lovgren.
Yes.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yep.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion does pass. Congratulations, Chair Holland and Vice Chair Moore.
I am humbled by your confidence here, but as Commissioner Ludwig said, this has been a different time, and so we will get back to a rotating schedule when things get back to what we kind of remember as normal. I will just state this. Becky and I, we like to travel. And so far our travels have, especially during the pandemic, it's been made a lot easier that I could be camped along the Madison River north or south of Bozeman and drive into a Wi-Fi hotspot and have a meeting. And a lot of people probably never knew I wasn't in Pine City. In the old ways of doing things, normally you have to state where you are going to be and that has to go in the agenda, so it gets posted several days before the meeting. I've never had anybody knock on my camper door and say, I'd like to join the meeting, but we do follow the rules, and so we are going to continue to do some traveling when we feel healthy enough and all of that. So anyway, thank you, and we will continue with the meeting, which would bring us up to public forum. Is there anybody that wishes to speak at public forum?
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the meeting room indicating they'd like to speak.
And I'm not seeing anybody. There's a couple callers I don't recognize, so if they want to speak, just chime in. Like caller user number 2. I don't know who that is, but you probably don't either. Anyway, we will move on, and we'll look for adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I have one addition to regular agenda item number 10, and that's a rural Minnesota counties update. And then there's some additional information for agenda item 9B, the coronavirus response update. It's an updated set of draft guidelines for the business and nonprofit relief program.
Okay. Does anybody else have any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, we'll look for a motion for such.
Moore will move the agenda with the additions and corrections.
Lundgren will second.
Thank you. Debbie, the clerk will call the roll. Oh, is there any other discussion first? If not, then Debbie will call the roll.
Yes, is this the,
Oh, Mr. Chair,
Yes?
Commissioner Waldham had a question.
Okay.
this was what you emailed out with the, what exactly with them, businesses being able to get some sort of reimbursement for property taxes? What was your thought on that then?
That'll
Mr. Chair, do
be,
you want to answer, or do you want to discuss it at that point on the
I
agenda?
think, I have a note, Commissioner Waldham, on that, to talk about that when we talk about the business plan back on item 9, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yep, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Now Debbie. Call the roll.
Okay, thank you. District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yeah,
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes,
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lundgren.
Aye.
Thank you.
okay, we'll move to the committee assignments and other appointments, and this is always a tricky time as we change board chairs, and then the first item of business is the board chairs to it's their job to appoint committees. So what we have tried to do in the past is have the outgoing chair talk to people prior to the meeting, so we got an idea of what people interest lies, or if they absolutely do not want to be on a committee. If you get assigned to a committee and you absolutely can't make those meeting dates, or you just absolutely don't want to be on that committee, we can change. These aren't chiseled in granite, but for the new folks, what I tried to do is get a little sense, and I will have a printed out copy for you. I'll bring this in to Debbie. I'm making some notes, but I generally, things don't change a lot because people that are on the board kind of like where they're at. And so the new board members a lot of times pick up where the previous board members were. I have made some subtle changes. So anyway, I will get this so the office can email it out to everybody within the next few days, if that's okay. Thank you. I'll take that as okay. County board schedule. We did have, I laid that aside so I'd have it right on top. For the coming year's meetings. If anybody sees anything there that looks like it's going to be a great conflict, now's the time to. We don't like to make changes to the regular board meetings. We do like to make sure that the Board of Equalization and Truth and Taxation meetings are scheduled now, so everybody, there is no misinterpretation of when we're going to have those.
Mr.
We
Chair,
do schedule for the new folks. We do schedule committee of the whole, which means all the board members should be in attendance, and those come up occasionally, not every month, but often enough that you can kind of plan on having at least probably 7 or 8 committee of the whole meetings throughout the year.
Mr.
Anyway,
Chair,
yes,
Mr. Chair.
yes.
So I know at some point, maybe we'll be able to have meetings in person again, or at
Yes.
least I hope so in this year. So my only, can we change to have, I know we talked about before and I don't know if they work and I'm not saying we do it, but should we have an option somewhere in the future or at least think about it? We don't have to decide about evening board meeting. That, and I don't know if that's going to help anything or not, but just so people that are working may have a chance to come. That's the only thing I'm putting out there. So
We certainly can, and we can. We have tried it in the past. It didn't prove in our county to be a success, but
okay.
I know other counties do it. And I hate to ever be the guy that says, well, we tried that and it didn't work, because we tried it 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
And it didn't work, but
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Mr. Ludwig or Commissioner Ludwig, are you talking like a monthly, nightly meeting, or like a committee of the whole nightly meeting, or maybe once or twice a year a nightly meeting, or what are you thinking? Because I would have some more discussion on that. Just
Maybe could we do this, folks? Because when we have our strategic planning meeting, we talk about, we put that on the agenda, and
I was just
we can flesh that out a little bit. If it kind of worked for a couple of years to do, you know, a couple a year in the evening, one in Sandstone, one in Pine City.
I know it's more difficult for staff. You know,
it is hard for staff, but they've been very gracious and worked around it before. For now, we'll leave the county board schedule as. We need a motion on that.
Yes, please.
Ludwig will move.
We have a motion. Who made the second? I heard a second. I'm not sure who made it. But...
it was
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes?
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the December 15th, 2020 County Board meeting and summary for publication.
Moore will move it.
Lovegren will
Matt,
second.
you wanna- Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes?
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yep.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Thank you.
We're just about through it, folks. Here are the minutes of the boards, committees, and correspondence of Pine County Chemical Health Coalition of December 14th, 2020, and the Pine County Land Surveyors Monthly Report, December 2020. Somebody would like to make a motion for that? We're just accepting these committee reports.
I'll make that motion, Lovegren.
Thank you.
Moore will second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yep.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the consent agenda. We're looking for approval of that. You've had it in front of you for a few days. Standard practice is to approve the consent agenda unless somebody wants to pull something off for discussion. If you don't understand something, that's quite all right. We can certainly pull it off or discuss it.
Ludwig will move consent.
Moore will second that.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to make a comment, actually. Thanks to our staff that reached out and the SWCD staff that looks like they have a nice cooperating thing there for us to assist them. And I think that's good business.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes,
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Thank you.
well, we'll move on to something that I don't think very many county boards get to do. And that's recognize a 50-year employee. Janet Schumacher. Janet, I know you started when you were 6 or 7, so.
I did. I did.
We really appreciate what you've done for all these years at the county, and hopefully you'll continue. I don't know if you're going to go for the 75-year trophy.
I don't think so, but thank you.
I think you get a new car if you stay 75 years.
Thank you very
Cool.
much.
Or a wore out.
I'll leave that for
dump truck,
somebody
I'm not
else.
sure. Thank
So,
you,
Mr.
Janet.
Chair?
We yes,
Is it okay if I say a few words?
I was hoping you would.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Becky Foss. I'm the Director of Pine County Health and Human Services, and just want to say thank you to the chair and to board members just allowing me this opportunity to honor Janet and just acknowledge her 50 years of service to Pine County. I know that every organization has their heroes, and Janet is definitely one of those for Health and Human Services. She has just so much knowledge, both working knowledge and an institutional knowledge that could never be replaced. She's consistent, dependable, conscientious, loyal, all those things like you want to see an employee you want others to emulate. And so she's just amazing. And she was such a huge help to me when I first took on this role. And I honestly could never thank her enough for that. She has this just amazing resolve to get things done, and her ability to multitask is just outstanding. And she has so much attention to detail, and I'm just greatly appreciative for all that she does on behalf of the agency and on behalf of the county. And just, I get so many compliments about her, both inside and outside of the organization, just how amazing she is, and just wanted to highlight that. And just really, Janet, thank you for all your years of service to Pine County. And I just appreciate you more than you know. And also a quick acknowledgement. I think she has some loved ones on the line too. So just thank you for having a wonderful person in your life and allowing us to borrow her during the day. She's amazing.
Thank you so much, Becky, for those kind words.
Absolutely.
I just have a few things that I would like to mention. How I started in this position 50 years ago. It doesn't seem like 50 years ago, but this is how it all began. In late 1970, I was encouraged by the accounting officer, Eileen Anderson at the time, to apply for an emergency position in the accounting department. On January 6th of 1971, I began my employment as an emergency appointment in accounting as a clerk steno 1. On April 4th, 1971, I was appointed full-time to a clerk steno 1 position, acting as secretary to the director, which was a backfill to Gertrude Siebert, who retired after 30-some years. Then in later years, my position was a clerk steno 2, a clerk typist 3, administrative assistant, office manager. When I started, we had 30-some employees, and currently we have 98. I have always enjoyed the work that I do, as well as made a special effort to always support our staff with what they needed to do their job. I'm very grateful to Pine County for giving me the opportunity to be employed at Pine County Health and Human Services for 50 years, and thankful to work with Becky, our current director, as well as 11 past directors, those that were full-time and interim. My day-to-day working relationships with our current and former supervisors, along with line staff, has meant a lot to me over the years, and of which I have many fond memories. I've also appreciated having the opportunity to work with present and past commissioners, other Pine County departments, state employees, local business providers, and committee members. Thank you for all that you have given me to get to this 50-year work anniversary. And thank you to my mom and dad for their work ethic passed on to me, as well as the everyday support of my husband. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. I think we all wish you'll get your hugs when we can hug.
I look forward to that.
Thank you very much. I'm curious, have you ever been late to work?
There may be a time when I was 5 or 10 minutes. I do have to commit to that.
Weather related.
Things happen.
I know. I bet you could count them on one hand, and to emulate what a good servant to the county and a public servant is. So we appreciate Janet. You've been the mainstay through my years here of somebody that we could count on for you know, we had a little bit of turmoil going on over the years, as you know, in that department, and
That's right.
you were solid as a rock. So we
I tried to do
appreciate
my best to get through it.
that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
We
Commissioner.
appreciate it. Yep. I see. Is Chad there, Sarah? And John? Anyway,
Be with John.
all right. Thanks. Thanks to the whole family. That's quite an accomplishment. All right. We're proud of you, Grandma. Okay. Thanks, Janet.
Thank you.
Next we'll do an introduction of Soil and Water Interim Manager. Paul Swanson.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Paul.
Yeah, so I don't know how many of you have been following what's been going on at the Soil and Water District, but we've had kind of a roller coaster year, above and beyond what the COVID-19 kind of brought on everybody. We've kind of had an exciting year above and beyond that. So after, I think it was almost 17 years, Jill resigned in September. So that was kind of a big loss for the district. There was a lot of knowledge there that we lost, and we've been kind of in a reset mode, I'll say, since she left, and we're really excited for moving forward. We're going to have some new staff here, and we have some new board members coming on here in January as well, so we're really excited for the future of the district. But I'll just give a quick little introduction of myself, where I come from, kind of my background, things like that. So I grew up in southern Wisconsin in a little town called Oakfield. Graduated high school there, and then I attended the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. I graduated there in 2012 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Forest Resources. So my background is forestry. Working through all of my career so far, I've kind of developed some more conservation management skills as I've been going on. A lot of that came from working at the Fond du Lac Reservation up by Cloquet. I worked there as a forester, but I also helped other departments, fisheries, wildlife, some of their resource management things. So I kind of started gaining some knowledge in some of the conservation management things there. In April of 2018, I began working here at the district as the district forester. When I started, that position was primarily writing stewardship plans, which is a really essential part to conserving private lands in the state of Minnesota. So that's really big. We've been doing that, I think, since 2016 or 2015 at the district. I expanded the program since I started from primarily writing plans to creating backpack sprayer rental service, administering the district's annual tree sale program, which our tree sale forms are out right now. If anyone's interested, they're online on our website. Working with local communities through Arbor Day tree planting events and other outreach and education events, and helping landowners implement forest stand improvement and conservation practices. This last year, I also hired on a seasonal forester, which kind of was a blessing in disguise, as I said, with the big staff changes. Jake is his name. He's been really integral in maintaining the forestry aspect of the district here. He's doing a great job. My position also evolved beyond forestry in the last year. I took other district responsibilities, including being the representative on the technical evaluation panel for WACA, which those of you who know WACA, it's very exciting. That's always something going on there. So since Jill left in September, I've served as the primary contact and interim manager here at the district. In December, the board officially named me the manager on a 6-month interim probationary period. So hopefully after that 6 months, I fully intend to be full-fledged manager of the district. I'm really excited for the district's new chapter, like I've said. We'll be hiring a new technician here early in 2021. I'm hoping to have that job posting by the end of this week or early next week. So I'm hoping to have a new technician here in late February or early March. With all the new that's happening here, we have a really great opportunity for new ideas, innovation, and ways to bring conservation to Pine County. And I'm really excited to work with the county and continue to build an even stronger relationship with you guys. So feel free to stop in when you guys have time. I'd be happy to meet you, talk more. If you guys have any questions, I can help answer. Always here. And like I said, I'm just excited to get to work and get to know you all better.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything to say? I welcome you as a board chair, and personally, I love forestry. I wish I knew more about it. The one thing I've learned since being a board member is that one workshop we went to when a forester said some very simple words. There's no better water filter in the world than a forest. And,
Exactly.
and so I think we need to do what we can do. We are called Pine County because of our heritage with white pines, and I tease some of my friends that we'll have to change our name to Prairie County if we don't start practicing better forestry practices and keep replanting. So anyway, thank you for what you've done so far, and we look for good things out of you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the U of M Extension Educator Program update. Rod and Nathan are gonna, and Susan are gonna steal the show here. I don't know who's gonna be first.
I'm going to go first. Thank you.
All right, Suzanne. All right.
Commissioner Holland. I just want to say at the beginning, good morning, everybody, that I really appreciated meeting Paul and hearing about the changes at Soil and Water, and we look forward to working more with Soil and Water as the years go by. So that's great. My name is Suzanne Henricks. I work as a regional director for Extension, University of Minnesota Extension. And I just wanted to extend a welcome to the new Commissioners Lovgren and Waldem. So
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here. First meeting. So we wanted to just present a little update from the Pine County Extension Office and kind of share some overview. So if you have any questions while we're presenting, please jump in. We have a few minutes worth of things that we want to share. I'm here with my two colleagues, Rod Reeder, who is the County Extension Ag Agent. So I should use Agriculture Educator, which is the terminology that we use today in today's extension. And then his supervisor and program leader, Nathan Winter. So they'll be presenting here in a couple minutes. But I just wanted to take the opportunity. I really appreciated what Paul did. He shared a little bit of history. I wanted to share University of Minnesota Extension. Cooperative extension was created in the United States in 1914 with the Smith-Lever Act, and extension in Minnesota is a part of that. So we're a part of the University of Minnesota. Cooperative extension was created to extend the knowledge and resources and research out to greater Minnesota, out to rural parts of the United States, not keep it at the university, but to extend it and make sure that everyone in the state benefits from it. And so that's what we do. Our mission is to address needs in counties and communities across Minnesota, and then by bringing research and resources and providing educational opportunities. So we really want to make sure that we're addressing local needs. And last year in 2020, that's exactly what we did. Rod was newly hired with a new position for an agriculture educator. So we're going to give an update on what he's been doing during the year 2020, but just to say thank you for investing and seeing that the farmers and the agriculture community in Pine County will benefit from this as time goes, and they already are, so that's good. I wanted to share one thing before I turn it over to Rod and Nathan to talk about agriculture. I just wanted to say, or show a short video. It's about 2 minutes. So I'm going to share my screen and hope that I get this right. Okay, you can see my screen and hopefully you can hear the music when I start it.
Suzanne, we're not hearing any audio.
Okay, on WebEx, what do I need to do to share my audio?
Suzanne, it's Ryan from IT. When you go to share the content, in the upper left-hand corner, under where it says share content, it says optimize for text and images.
Yes, I saw that. Okay, I should use that.
Drag that down to say motion and video, and that should.
Excellent. Okay, I'll start it again. Thank you very much for letting me know that it wasn't working.
2020, when COVID-19 hit, Extension didn't miss a beat. We introduced ourselves anew.
Hello, everyone. My name is April Smith. I work for the University of Minnesota Extension.
Hello, and welcome to Two for You. Today, we get to talk about hope.
We kept traditions, although differently.
It is a pleasure for me to be with you here today to congratulate all of you, the 2020 Farm Families of the Year.
Our participants never stopped learning.
This is my pig, Steve. He is a Harpy Barrow.
We brought so much to Minnesota communities, all across the map. From the early days of spring when we went into quarantine to today.
That's good. That tastes like fall.
And we're working to make sure that Extension feels welcoming to all. Thank you for making a difference in Minnesota and working wisely together, no matter the distance.
That was a video that our Dean Durgan, shared at a conference that we had in October. And it was just highlighting how Extension has been flexible during this time of the pandemic. It's really in line with what Pine County has modeled, flexibility, yet getting, the work done and producing results. So I just wanted to share that Extension is really doing some innovative things, working in virtual spaces with both youth and adult learners. So wanted to share that, I guess. Before I turn it over to Rod and Nathan, I just want to say that Rod works locally in the Pine County Extension office with a few other staff members that we'll bring during the year to meet the two new commissioners. However, I do want to say to the two new commissioners that we'd love to have a meet and greet with you as you're doing with other departments. So we'll work on scheduling that with you as well. So Rod works locally in the county extension office, and then he leverages other people from across the state. It might be a statewide educator, or it might be other regional educators who have expertise that kind of blend in with what he wants to have happen in Pine County. So that's kind of what you saw there in the video. There's multiple people working in many different places. So I think I'll go ahead and turn it over. Rod, do you want to kind of step in and tell them who you are and what you've been up to?
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yes, I'm Rod Greeter. I've been working now in Pine County since April of 2020. I'm not new to Extension. I started out in Wright County as the ag and horticulture educator in 2014. So Extension about 6.5 years. Right now I'm half-time Pine County and about 0.4 time in Isanti. And between the two counties cover agriculture, horticulture, and I lead the Master Gardener program in Isanti County. I've been a resident of Pine County for 14 years, moved here in 2007, and I have a 80-acre farm that I have managed since about 2008, and beef cow herd and lots of other little things, big garden, orchard, have sold at the farmer's market, been very active in local food and all the things that go with being a small farmer. So I really enjoy that focus of the program and hope to add more value to Pine County under that umbrella. So I'd like to give a little bit of an update, and I'm going to share my screen here. A little bit of an update on what I've been up to, and then get some discussion going about what I've done, and then also about where we are headed in 2021. And I will give a shout out to Suzanne and Nathan, who have been working with the Pine County Commissioners. And again, welcome to the 2 new commissioners. And it's nice to see the ones that serve on our county extension committee. I look forward to working with you all in 2021. But Nathan and Suzanne have been working with you for probably 4 or 5 years. There was a needs assessment that was done back in 2017, I believe, that Nathan headed up. We heard back from 35 farmers in Pine County and also some outside the county. And we looked at the Census of Agriculture at that time too. And this gave us a picture of what is the baseline in Pine County? What kind of agriculture is being done here in terms of livestock production and crop production? And from that, we've identified what we feel are the target areas and some of the needs areas, and I'll get more into that here in a second. But Pine County ranks high for forage land for all hay, hay leaf, grass silage, green chop, and about a quarter of our agricultural acres are in forages, whether it's hay, alfalfa, or pasture. So that's a big part of the focus here in the county, and that's where we've tried to focus, but of course not ignoring the other farmers that grow crops, corn and soybeans and various other things. And we'll talk more about our programming, how we focus on those. So we've done a fair amount of planning. I've spent a lot of time on needs assessment first 9 months now in the county, and determining the size and significance of where we want to focus, talk to a lot of farmers to understand issues. Nathan is going to ask you too where you see where we could add some value, and we're certainly open to your feedback. And determining the appropriate solution, as Suzanne talked about, we've had to be creative in how we interact with our audiences 2020, and I'll tell you a little bit about how we've done that. And I've always been a big believer in partnerships, and I look forward to working with Paul at SWCD, and I've also worked with NRCS and FSA here locally, and hope to expand those partnerships in 2021. So the farmer's needs assessment, I'm not going to go through this in detail, just highlight a few things. Under business planning, budgeting, business tools, farm transition, tax planning, we've focused on land rent calculations, a land rent seminar that we held in December here. And we are also promoting some tax planning that's going on right now to meet those business needs of our current operators. Also, we're planning some marketing. We've got a green marketing extension expert that's going to be on our Crops Day call that I'll talk more about here in a minute. And then beginning farmer education, which we've identified as a great opportunity for us and could be useful in that ag economic development piece that I know a lot of you were hoping this position could bring to the county, and I'll talk more about that. Also, as the assessment showed and the ag census showed, heavy emphasis on cow-calf management, cow-calf nutrition, a little bit of dairy, but heavy on beef cattle. And we continue to do that. Also, pasture and forage management, soil health. We collaborated on a field day this year on soil health. And I mentioned we have a crops day coming up the end of February, the first part of March, where we'll also focus on corn and soybean production and small grains. Method of delivery, of course, this question was asked pre-COVID, but I think we've tried to adapt and be flexible, as Suzanne said, to multiple modes of delivery. We are doing winter workshops. We had a farm tour, a field day at my farm to talk about pasture management in September. We are doing one-on-one meetings as we can with exemptions due to COVID. And we're doing lots of online learning modules, webinars, and various other things to get out there as much as we can in these times. So I'll just show you this, and I'm not going to go through it in detail, but extension is evidence-based. We try to focus on those things that are real, meaningful, have data that show that these are real needs and that this is where our audiences are. So as you can see here, other hay is a major issue in Pine County, meaning alfalfa grass mixes. And we've also got some opportunities, as you see on the right-hand side, to improve our hay production. So that's one thing that I'm focusing on. Our 2020 field day events, I mentioned I had a field day at my farm. It was well attended. We had about 15 people there. We socially distanced, we offered masks, and it was successful, and we got some very good evaluations. Farm safety is one of the things that I want to focus on and have in the past with my career with Extension. And we're going to work with 4-H, hopefully in person this summer, to provide some more on-farm farm safety type training. Soil Health Day, I was a speaker at John Stevens, excellent day that he puts on every year. And then I did about 15 site visits and consultations as we could given COVID, and probably handled 25 or more phone calls and emails. So the small farm school, we identified small farms as an area of focus and need, and I completed a small farm cohort in December. We had 15 families that were in this cohort in an 8-week course. Unfortunately, we only had one family located in Pine County, Doug and Katie Lynn down by Greeley, and we had one other family that was looking at relocating to Pine County. And that's something I want to talk about here in a second, about how we can get more Pine County residents or people that want to establish in Pine County to create that rural entrepreneurship or that agribusiness that we can use to expand on. We are planning on offering the class again starting on March the 10th and beginning to promote it right now. So our outreach in these times, we've been very creative with social media. I think we're up to 168 followers on Facebook. I post 3 to 4 times a week. I hope you all can follow us and stay up to date on what's going on. We've created a Pine County Ag page on our local extension page, and we update that with timely information. Also, I'm on WCMP twice a month. It's generally scheduled. The live program is 5:30 a.m. Fridays, and after this call here, I'm headed out to WCMP to record our call back on this coming Friday, and you can access those archives. I don't expect too many people to be up at 5:30 and listening to the radio, although some of you probably are. So we are trying to reach out as much as we can in many different ways. Our 2021 field day plans, I already mentioned the startup school, which starts March the 10th. We are scheduling a crops day, and we're bringing in 5 to 6 of our extension educators to talk corn, soybeans, pest control, weed control, small greens, and lots of different things. That's either going to be the last week of February or the first week of March. Farm safety I already talked about. We're going to do more pasture or hay field days this summer, a cow-calf beef day, and then also do some work on local food. And I'll continue to offer my services for technical assistance. We are also doing some grant work that a lot of the testing and development has been done in Pine County. As I said, we're focused on pasture management, pasture measurement. We've developed this pasture productivity scale that you can see here. There's one setting right here in front of me in my office that we will be marketing to extension educators, consultants, agronomists, to help to go out to those with pasture acres to help them improve their productivity and get more beef pounds off of an acre of pasture. Also, we're developing a cart here to help facilitate rotational grazing, because rotational grazing is great for the environment, sustainability, and also improves productivity. But we need some tools to help make that happen. And we're doing some research here in the county to do that. So to get to the Pine County Ag Development Proposal and then wrap up. David and Suzanne and Nathan and I had a discussion a couple weeks ago. I've got a proposal that was in the packet that was sent to you of how we can use this small farm startup school that we have going and how we can promote the advantages of Pine County. And there's some great things about Pine County that fit for these small farmers. And I think we need to emphasize that and promote that. We intend to partner with the Mille Lacs Band. They want to do some focused training on traditional agriculture and sustainability and local food. We want to do that in the future. And we want to do some targeted marketing. So this class that we're doing beginning in March, we hope to have 20 families, and we'd love to have 10 of those or more that are in Pine County and want to expand or want to put down roots into Pine County. And I will stop there and open it up for questions, and also pass it to Nathan to engage you in some discussion about what I have planned, and specifically that Pine County Ag Development Proposal.
All right. Thanks, Rod. I'll just introduce myself quickly here. Some of you know me, some of you don't. Nathan Winter. So I work as a program leader with the University of Minnesota Extension, working in the ag, food, and natural resources area. So I am Rod's direct supervisor, kind of a cohort or a colleague of Suzanne's. She really handles the relationship with you folks and as the commissioners. But as far as the supervisory area, I provide that leadership in the ag, food, natural resources area, and the 4-H program has somebody similar that handles some of the supervision. But Suzanne really is your on-the-ground relationship. So a lot of you met, over time, through a lot of conversations about this extension educator position. Less than a year ago, I was just paging back on my calendar here, looking back at where I was, and I think we interviewed February 21st of last year for this position, somewhere in this pandemic that everybody knows about so well. Rod started in this position, so it's been a whirlwind for everybody. So new commissioners, definitely welcome. I just appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you today. I'll be fairly brief here. I just wanted to just thank you all for your commitment to the extension educator position. And this pandemic, although it's been really negative on really trying to outwardly get out and do some of our extension, we're really kind of hands-on. We like in-person workshops. We've had all these technology tools that are at our tips of our fingertips, but we haven't really leveraged them. And when we're forced into it, it's negative in the short term, but I do think in the long term, it is going to make us better and more effective, give us more tools, more ability to reach citizens, reach the public. So what we tried to really focus on, and I think Rod's done a nice job since starting, is trying to do what we can do, focus on what we can do, not necessarily what we can't do. So if we can get out, what are those safety precautions to get out and consult with farmers? Can we do a field day? What does that field day look like? And then beyond that, leveraging the social media tools, the radio, and leveraging those tools. So I think Rod has done a good job, and the Small Farm Startup School, which he brought from some previous work and has modified that as well. But I think a lot of that's really appreciative. I think that he's really doing a nice job kind of navigating that. He wants to do a little bit more relationship building, folks on the ground, soil and water, commissioners, and we can get some more in person at some point. I think that will help. A lot of this position for the new commissioners, a lot of this came from conversations with the whole board, Dave Minke, and a lot of conversations there. And really, we worked a lot with Caleb Anderson as well, and he has a pretty good knowledge of farmers and people in the region. So a lot of that, I've gotten to know all these folks through these conversations, and a lot of the previous board of commissioners. So there's new folks on here. Really, we supporting that ag community, but a little bit of that economic development piece, like growing our economic base, strengthening the farmers. And I think some of the beginning farmer stuff, some of the things Rod is doing, I hope is doing what you've asked as far as that agreement with the extension. Beyond that, just kind of the question here, and I think let's this is something that doesn't have to be you know the answer to today, but as commissioners, you'll have There's a couple people, and I don't know that you'll announce your committee assignments at some point. The Extension Committee will have a couple commissioners on that. And we're going to be looking for feedback, making sure we're staying on target with Rod and his work. So that Extension Committee is that ability to do that. So my question for you today, if you got anything that right at the tip of your tongue, or if it's something that you can bring to your Extension Committee representatives down the road, is, really what are you hearing from farmers or others on needs or issues that need to be addressed? Short term, long term, are the things that, as new commissioners, you're running your races, that you were hearing from farmers or from the public? I mean, we want to do this right in this relationship with Extension and working with our county partners. We want to be listening and hearing from you. So is there things at this point that makes sense, or I just want to open that door for future conversations directly with Rod or directly with the Extension Committee or Suzanne? So is there thoughts any of the commissioners have at this point, what you're hearing?
Myself, not offhand, but back to what Rod was saying about wants to see more people starting up in Pine County. What are some of the challenges that they're not starting up in Pine County? Well, what did he say? I think he said for agricultural entrepreneurship. I mean, what's stopping them from getting up there and starting up?
Well, I can take a shot at that. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but I think location is one of the issues. A lot of the market for these small farmers, local food, organic food, that type of thing is in the metro area and the fringes of the metro area, where we're an hour or 75 minutes from any major metro area. So that's one thing that they look at. I'd say also if they're gonna have somebody that has to commute to the metro area, that distance is also going to be an issue. Although one of the opportunities now, you see a lot of people with remote work. So that has opened up, I think, an opportunity there that I haven't seen other counties capitalize on, is, hey, you can live in Pine County and still do your job in St. Paul or in Duluth. So I think some of those commuting issues maybe are going away. I think that's, and I think just there's 87 counties. We have to distinguish ourselves. We have to differentiate ourselves. We have to increase the awareness of Pine County. What are the benefits? What are the advantages? And we have to be different. And I think if we can just be the first one out there to talk about establishing the farm in Pine County, would go a long way to moving us up that list. People have to be aware that we exist and that we want them.
Sure. Thank you.
I appreciate your words, Rod, because I think as board members, we're all cheerleaders for Pine County. We think Pine County is the best place on earth to live, or we wouldn't live here. So we appreciate the good work you're doing and kind of carrying that forward.
Mr. Chair, this is Dave Minke. Hey, I just had a question for Rod, and it maybe builds a little on what JJ was asking. But as we look to grow ag in Pine County, where is the capacity? Is it getting more value-added products, or more, growing crops that have more value, or is it expanding crops that are already grown, or livestock that's already grown? Where are the areas that are maybe most ready for expansion based on our assets or based on where the markets are going?
Well, I think that whole local food, grown sustainably, organic, natural, that's a major trend that's been increasing. So I think those value-added products, whether they're organically grown corn or soybeans, or they are vegetable crops, or it's grass-fed beef, those are certainly opportunities that we need to focus on for that healthy organic trends that we're seeing in eating habits. I'll also say that this really needs to be an entire ecosystem approach. We can't just say, oh, we'll grow it and the market will come. It doesn't work that way. We've got to develop the farmers markets. We've got to develop a food hub. We need to make sure that we have a meat processor in this area. Doesn't matter how many grass-fed steers you have if you can't get them processed. So I think we need to focus holistically all the way from the producer to that consumer on this ag development piece. We've got to develop a supply chain to get to that market. But I think there are numerous opportunities there. Some traditional, some value added, maybe some new type of things.
Rod, you've also mentioned to me about farmers go into farming because they like to grow things, they like to raise things, they like tending livestock, but it's that business side. So you've talked to me about that that's also a development need for people as well, kind of creating a niche for themselves. Is that right?
Absolutely. If you remember back to the first or second slide there where we talked about the needs assessment, there's a huge need for marketing, business development, all the business aspects of management and tax planning. So that is something we need to focus on. And the small farm startup school that we're doing, probably a quarter of that is focused on the business aspects. And everybody that takes that school has to create a business plan. And we coach them on that, and we give them feedback. And at the end of that course, they have to have a plan that comes out of that that is built on real world marketing and business information, not a pipe dream or, I want to grow strawberries. Well, is there a market for strawberries, and can you make money at it? We need to answer those questions first.
Thanks, Rod. Thanks, Suzanne. Suzanne, do we have a extension 4-H educator?
Yes. In fact, I was just conversing with her this morning because I'd like to get her here to the county board to introduce her. Her name is Hannah Halderson. Hannah has been the interim 4-H educator who's been working in the position since maybe September, I think. So yes, she is the ongoing 4-H educator now. So we'll have her here in February or early March.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, she'll be great. She is enthusiastic about youth and providing opportunities for families to learn, and youth specifically.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. We always appreciate it.
Thank you.
We got something other exciting. I was excited about this when I read it, Kelly and Caleb, the property cleanup, because I think it's kind of a unique way to go about a business without throwing the hammer down at them. So if you want to explain it, Kelly, are you the explainer?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is Kelly Schroeder, the County Auditor Treasurer. So before you today, you have a resolution for a special assessment on a property in Pagegama Township. Back in early fall, we were contacted by the new property owner of this parcel. And he said that there was a very big mess there, which you guys got pictures in your packet. And yes, there was a very big mess there. The property was in clear violation of the county solid waste ordinance. And I think if we would have taken the time to get public health out there, it could have been a public health nuisance as well. And so the property owner though was willing and happy to get it cleaned up. However, it's very hard to come up with the money to do that. And so we worked with the property owner, worked with his contractor. Normally to get things cleaned up like this, if the property owner is not willing, it's a court process. But we had a willing property owner, so it made it very easy to move forward, get it cleaned up. The total cost was $28,500. But today there's not a speck of junk or debris on that property. It's amazing. And so we are requesting a special assessment to pay the county back for those funds of $28,500 over a term of 20 years at 0% interest.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I drove by it. It's pretty close to my area there, and that's always been an interesting place to drive by. And the only thing I could see there when I drove by was a septic system. So it's like, wow, I didn't even know there was one of them there. You couldn't see it.
I commend you for and the property owner for doing something here that could have cost us years and years of litigation, and it seemed like a great plan. So thank you. If no other questions, we do need a motion to approve resolution 2021-02.
Moore will move that.
Lovegren will second it. Thank you, Kelly, for doing that.
Okay, we got a motion made by Moore, second by Lovegren. Is there any other discussion? If not, Debbie, the clerk will call the roll.
District 4, Commissioner Waldam.
Yep.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the legislative priorities from the Arrowhead Counties Association. And we have that in our packet. I don't know if we need to have a long discussion on this.
The one thing I would add, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ludwig.
Yep.
The line where it says the Community Corrections Act. It's maybe that 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line down, that increased funding, that also includes CPO language for county probation officers. I don't know why that ended up shortened. And I know Administrator Mankey caught that and made some contacts out too to make sure. But that includes the funding we receive. You know, I think it's supposed to be at 50% or something like that, and we're getting about 28 or 29% funding from the state.
Right.
We have it on there every year.
Yeah. Perry, are you still on? Do you have any comments on that?
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner. No, I don't have any further comment. That's accurate. I think it just got left off. It is part of the AMC platform every year as well.
Maybe we can make some progress here. Our legislators certainly have heard us beat the drum for this for long enough. So if we beat it loud enough and long enough, sometimes they get tired of hearing it and just get it over with. So anyway.
So, Mr. Chair,
yes.
Can I ask Matt a question? Just to clarify, does Arrowhead counties want any sort of a priority list feedback from the counties, or these are the priorities and they're not ranked in an order? I ask because I think some years in the past, we've actually ranked them.
Yes, I don't, here's what happens. I think we kick the list up and then we'll be ranked by the committee members at the meeting. So our representative will speak. So if you have something that you want a priority, now's the time to speak, then our representative can handle that at the meeting. So you're right.
Well, the thing that has stuck in my craw for years is whoever goes into the meeting and make sure we put that CPO funding as one of our top priorities.
I think the PILT is also pretty important for our county.
Yeah.
Yes, PILT is.
Yeah, you're right, Terry. And that language is always on, and that's on the AMC platform too, because that's a county program aid, and PILT is always on. So,
okay.
PILT.
Yeah.
PILT. We did pick up some allies. I've kind of gathered from Southwest Minnesota, and the PILT payment program because they never understood it at all and didn't care. And that's a lot of county representation. But now, as groups, conservation groups, Pheasants Forever being one that comes to mind, has purchased property in southwest Minnesota, and then they've turned it over to the DNR. They're expecting, wondering what happened. They should get some payment in lieu of taxes. Finally, they're waking up to what we have said for years. So maybe we got a little more, a few more allies anyway, as they talk to their local representatives. The problem with Pilt, as I see it, is they've had this pot of money, and the pot of money hasn't grown, but the acres of land has grown. So the pot just gets divided in more ways. It's like cutting the pie in 9 pieces instead of 7. So
Mr. Chair,
yes,
just for the ease, if we do rank, the third one up from the bottom where it says protect county funding received at that from the Moose Lake, we talked about that. That's those catchment dollars that were established. That one, I think we don't have to worry about this biennium. I think it's funded through, but we definitely need to keep it on our radar. So
right,
that one could be moved to the bottom if we rank them, but
okay. We'll move on from there. Would be the bids for the official publication for 2021. David, do you want to take that?
Sure, thank you. So we have received bids for publishing for the first publication, and then on the second publication for the times we need to do 2 publications. The publication rates are the same as 2020, and so I would ask for a motion to award the 2021 publication bids as shown in your packet.
This is Lovegren. I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Moral second.
Thank you. We've got a motion by Lovegren, seconded by Moore for awarding of the publication for 2021.
Mr. Chair, I should have just noted the names. It's the Pine City Pioneer for the first and the Pine County Courier for the second, and the cost is $8.75 per column inch for each of those.
Thank you. I just found it myself here. Any questions? Any discussion? If not, clerk, call the roll.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldron.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Can
We'll
I
move
ask a
on
question?
Yeah.
Chairman Holland? This is Eileen Krupp.
Yes.
I know that that PIC News doesn't qualify to be, because it's not considered a legal publication. But I would like to receive notices to put into PIC News to accommodate the county residents. So they can share and pass them on this year, 2020, that has passed and become quite a different way of communicating and bringing things forward to the public. And so at no compensation, I would like to receive the notices and put them in PIC News to accommodate the people who don't get newspapers, if that's possible. So, and I know that as a resident, I'm entitled to request anything. I just want to put it out there and make it a little bit easier for everybody else who are only doing online with their phone. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll work with staff and see how that can work. Thanks,
Thank you.
Eileen. Yeah.
You bet.
Okay, labor negotiation update.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we did receive confirmation last night that the deputies did vote to approve their contract. And so now we do have approval of all contracts by all groups for the 9 that were open. These 2 on the agenda today are the social services supervisors and the deputies. The durations are the same as the other ones we've settled this year at 3 years. The wages are the same, with a 1.45% increase on January 1st and 1.25% increase on July 1st, and then a 2% increase on January 1st, 2022 and 2023. We have worked some performance pay into the deputies contract, which allows up to a 2% performance increase after 15 years. The deputies also receive an increase in their uniform allowance, an increase of $25 for 2021, and an additional $25 for 2022, and then it stays the same amount for 2023. On the insurance, the social services have the same insurance as other skilled groups and non-union employees, and that the deputies do their insurance through the Teamsters Health and Welfare. And so we provide them the same cash equivalent contribution for their insurance. And so if there are any questions, I can address them. And once those are answered or done, if you're willing to approve the contracts, then finalize all of the open contracts for this year.
Are there any questions?
Ludwig will move.
We do them both in one motion, David?
Yes, you can.
Moral second.
Ludwig moves, Moore seconds. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lupgren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldron.
Yep.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Since I've been on the board, this is probably the strangest part of any meeting that I take part in. That is that we are going to recess the regular board meeting, and we are going to open the Pine County Regional Railroad Authority annual meeting. For those of you that are confused, we do have rail authority in Pine County. For a while, we did own some railroad track or right of way. I believe it's been given to the DNR for trails, right? But nevertheless, we do have to have an annual rail authority meeting. And so the thing that I know is on the agenda, we have to appoint a chairman, a vice chairman, a secretary, and a treasurer. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I will nominate the existing officers for that as well.
We have a nomination. Do we have any other nominations? Do we have any other nomination? One last time, do we have any other nominations?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Could I just clarify that the motion for the existing officers would be that Commissioner Holland would be the chair, Commissioner Moore would be the vice chair, Non-voting secretary would be Administrator Minke, and the non-voting treasurer would be Auditor Treasurer Schroeder.
That is
Yes.
correct.
I would need a second to that.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lupgren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes, just for everybody's, I can think of a few times when we actually have had business we had to take place. One was, I think there was some surveying that had to be done on the rail line up by Brook Park that ended up being trail. And I believe we had to meet when the bridge, the Snake River bridge for the railroad in Pine City was reconstructed. The rail authority had to give permission for that to take place. It was at no cost to Pine County. Several years we did meet and discuss our involvement with NLX. Our involvement with NLX is to send a representative to the meetings when they do meet. We are not a full member anymore, so we just go as basically observers and see what's going to happen. Is there any business that needs to come before the rail authority?
Mr. Chair, I wonder, Kelly is on the call, and does the rail authority still own that right of way up by Brook Park west to the county line?
That is correct. That is the only property that I know of that the rail authority still has.
We do still own it.
Yes.
We got rid of a little piece for a driveway access a couple years ago.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I think we gave an easement for the driveway access.
Yeah, yes, we did. That's what we did.
So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that the authority still owns the property.
Thank you. If hearing no other business, we'll declare the rail authority meeting adjourned, and we'll reconvene the county board meeting, and we'll move right to Corona's response update. I see Sam is on the call. If you want to give us a quick update on where we stand with, I think we're probably interested in the vaccine rollout.
That is what I'm going to talk about, is vaccines all day, every day right now. I thought I'm going to go a little rogue because I didn't actually send this ahead of time, but I figured people like seeing things in writing. I'm going to just share a couple slides from a very large presentation we did. It's an hour long. It goes into all the details about this vaccine, how it works, side effects, efficacy, but just give you some very, very high level touch on a couple topics, just so I can kind of address some myths that we're seeing, because you guys are such great advocates and ambassadors in the community, that I'm hoping you can also address myths as we go throughout this whole so no fun title slides. I'm literally pulling slides out of this presentation. But something people wonder a lot about for this vaccine is, how did it happen so fast? Because generally vaccines do take a lot of time to develop. And a couple things went into it to make this happen really short. One is they overlapped phases of the trials. So generally you have phase 1, there's a pause where they have to do paperwork and please let me do phase 2, give me money, phase 2, phase 3, on and on. They were allowed to overlap the phases so that you had phase 1 going on at the same time as phase 2. They weren't allowed to shorten their phases, they just overlapped them. Another thing is we have a ton of cases of COVID. So it takes a lot of time to get enough data to say, hey, this vaccine works, this doesn't work, how well does it work, da, 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 da. But we have so many cases, we could gather that data much quicker than we normally would for a disease that's very rare. A lot of funding and political will went into this, which opened up doors for money and made things go smoother than normal. And just the red tape was simplified. They didn't get to skip steps of the process, but if you said COVID vaccine on it, you got moved to the front of the line. So that really made things move much quicker than they normally would for a vaccine. Feel free to interrupt me if you have questions. Is it effective? Sure is. 95% effective for both Pfizer and Moderna. Generally, it takes a little bit to get immunity though. So the first time you get a shot, you don't get to go run out and have a party the next day. It takes about 2 weeks after your second dose to really see that efficacy. So about 6 weeks to get 5 to 6 weeks, depending on the vaccine, to really see your immune response be full. People are really wondering about, well, why do I still have to wear a mask after I get the vaccine? And it's mostly because the scientists are saying, we don't know if you can carry it and be asymptomatic. It doesn't mean you will, it doesn't mean you won't. The scientists just don't like saying things that they don't have data to prove. So they're working on it, but right now the data was focused on symptomatic infection, severe infection, and death. That's how the trials were structured. So we're working on getting data of, does it prevent all infections or only symptomatic infection? So it's just, they don't want to say things that they don't have the data to back up. And generally, as far as immunity, it lasts, we don't know. But we see a consistently strong immune response if you get the vaccine versus if you get a natural infection. It's a much wider swath of, some people have a strong response. Some people have a really mild, kind of pitiful immune response. So that consistent immune response is always preferable, especially when the risk of the vaccine itself is much lower than the potential risks of a COVID infection. Side effects is something people always wonder about. They're really generally mild to moderate. They're self-limited, which means they resolve all on their own. You don't need medical treatment for them to go away. But they were common, more common after the second dose than the first dose. A bunch of us staff have received our first dose of Moderna, and all of us said, yep, my arm was sore for about 1 to 2 days, and then it went away. So we'll see how it looks after our second dose. We're expecting probably injection site pain again. Muscle joint pain is also common after the second dose. Fatigue, headache also came up. It was also 2020 when they did the studies, so a lot of people are tired because it was 2020. Very, very few severe side effects though. And when they say severe, it meant bad enough to prevent daily normal. So a headache bad enough for you to end up wanting to spend the day in bed. Very few of those. Side effects were less common in older adults though. So enjoy that if you're an older adult. Just a couple myths that pop up a lot. Will it my DNA? No. I spent a good amount of time in the presentation explaining the cellular biology behind this, of how it works, to help break down this myth. But basically your DNA is like a solid printed bound cookbook that has recipes for everything cellular you want to make. mRNA is basically like a Post-it note of you jotting down one recipe out of your DNA cookbook. And mRNA just comes into your cell and says, hey, I'm taking over the kitchen for a minute. I want to cook this spike protein. And that does not change your DNA. It's unidirectional DNA RNA protein. So it does not do that. Will it cause you to be infertile? No. This is a crazy myth with so many bad science backing this up that it boggles my mind that it's a myth. But here we are. It basically stemmed from like an online chat board of somebody noticing something interesting about some protein amino acids. And they looked the same as a placental protein. And ooh, they matched. And yes, the 6 proteins matched, but it wasn't actually scientifically interesting in any way, shape, or form. And really, if this were true, the theory being that the antibodies that are created, that you're teaching with the vaccine, are going to look for the spike protein, and then they're going to attack the placental protein because it's the same. If this were true, people with natural COVID infections would see this crossover, and they're not. So it's It's not going to teach your body to attack your placenta. It's a weirdly, badly factored. Yeah, it's a bad myth. I get why people do it though, because it's scary. Does the vaccine contain fetal cells? No, there's nothing in the vaccine that comes from a fetal cell. It's mRNA, fat, salt, and sugar. That's what's in the vaccine. That's it. There's not even preservatives, which people freak out about. Do you get a COVID card? You do. It looks like this guy right here. I got my COVID card. It's just to tell you when you got it and when to come back for your second dose. Basically like a dentist reminder card. That's all. You're not going to flash it to get into a grocery store. How much does it cost? It's free. Come to us. We'll vaccinate you. We don't bill you. We don't charge you. Nothing. And then this is just kind of an overview of where we're at right now in Pine County Public Health anyway. We have public health is focusing on long-term care facilities. Healthcare are kind of doing their own. So Essentia, Wellia are all doing their own staff. We have already been into both skilled nursing facilities in the county. We're in there again today to kind of do some catch up of if they staggered staff or some people changed their mind and decided they wanted it. We're in there today. We're moving on to non-affiliated EMS tomorrow, which is basically anybody EMS certified who do not work for a hospital. So a lot of our law enforcement, sheriffs are getting vaccinated tomorrow, some firefighters, like that. We'll be starting assisted living facilities next week, which is we're doing the state's phased approach of within 1A, they've prioritized groups. So that's why we're moving on to them next week. Later in January, we'll be moving on to other healthcare workers, which is kind of this broad definition of eye doctors, chiropractors, mental health providers, basically the other healthcare workers that aren't affiliated with a clinic or anything. And then we'll be moving on to the 1B group in February, and who comes first within that 1B group of essential workers is decided by the state, and that should be coming out next week. I'm guessing schools will be high on the list, so we're already working on the logistics of that, of how to organize school staff vaccinated, but other people will also be in that group and when we move into February. So that was my super quick and dirty explanation of the vaccine, how it works. It's safe, it's effective. When it's your turn, we are advocating for anybody interested, please come get vaccinated. The sooner we get there, the sooner we have herd immunity, the sooner we can go back to normal. So, does anybody have questions about the vaccine related to the presentation? Not related to the presentation? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I do.
That was great information. Go ahead, Josh.
So as far as where the cases kind of stand right now, are they leveling off or up or down, or?
They have come down quite a bit from our peak in late November, was kind of where we really peaked, was around Thanksgiving. So that's been really positive for our schools as they're looking to transition back to in-person learning or hybrid learning. So they've come down quite a bit. Our case rates are quite a bit lower than they were. So I don't know off the top of my head how many cases we've had so far, but
do you think, like, I know yesterday now we started sports again for kids, which was great. I was at the hockey rink for over 3 hours. So, Mike, do you foresee it ramping back up, or do you think the vaccine is gonna start taking somewhat effect? Or, I mean, I know this is just speculation, but I'm just kind of curious what we're looking at.
Oh, my crystal ball. So it looks, it's entirely possible that we might see a post-holiday spike, and we're not quite far enough away from that yet to say whether or not we'll see it. So that could happen. Hoping not, hoping people followed the rules, kept it small gatherings, all that. The vaccine is not going to make or break us yet in terms of seeing another spike, though, because not enough people have been vaccinated. Right now, the state's focusing on vaccinating for impact. So the people most at risk of having really severe COVID and die. So that's why we're in our long-term care already. And healthcare workers, because they're constantly being potentially exposed. trying to mitigate risk, that does not eliminate everybody else's risk. So we still need to follow all of these practices we've been preaching for 10 months. Still wear your mask, still social distance. Please limit the amount of gatherings that you're having, because it's going to be a couple months here before we have really ramped up the amount of people who have had the vaccine. It just takes time to work out. So until then, we are still at a risk of another spike if people get vaccinated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. I was corresponding with Samantha yesterday a little bit, and I was trying to do the math, and I don't know exactly how many people they can vaccinate in one day, or what's the record amount of people you vaccinated in one day at this point.
We did, well, we've only had clinic for a couple days so far because of the holidays.
Right.
But we did 55 in a day.
Okay.
Was,
so I was basing it, if you did it, I mean, just do the math. There's 30,000 people that live in Pine County. And so if we did 1,000 a day, it'd take us a month. We know we can't do 1,000 a day. If we did 500 a month or a day, it's going to take 2 months. If we did 250 a day, it's going to take us 4 months. So I mean, we're looking late spring probably before we get to where it's really going to be effective to knock it back. Anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for being responsive to people. And I have heard that Pine County is ahead of some of the other counties in the surrounding areas, which there's something in us, that we're born to be competitive. So we always like to be the best. And so I thank you for leading the charge.
It's been fun. It's going well.
Any other stuff on the public health aspect? Otherwise, we'll move on to the state business relief program update.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you may recall that the state had a significant budget deficit, and then the November forecast came out in early December and showed a surplus for the remaining state fiscal year, which ends June 30th, of some hundreds of millions of dollars. So at the last special legislative session, the legislature approved 3 buckets of relief funding. One of the buckets is identified for counties to be the intermediary and award grants. In that bucket, Pine County has about $568,000 to construct a grant program. And so I have been working with Don Hickman at the Initiative Foundation, and we've had video call and some communication with some of the city administrators and community development folks in Pine County, Chamber of Commerce, and we did have Senator Rarick on a call as well, trying to get some direction as to the best uses of this money. It's clear from the legislation and the comments of legislators that these funds are intended for businesses that have suffered a significant loss. And so if you recall our other funding, the first iteration, we awarded grants based on eligible costs. If you were a business and you could show us eligible costs, we would give you money. The second iteration, the FAST grants, we said if you were impacted and if you had not been reimbursed for eligible expenses, we will give you money. This round, we're making an effort to make a priority of businesses that have been financially impacted. And so on the handout, on the draft guidelines, you'll see that there's funding priorities that are a loss of 25% or greater would be the first priority, a loss of less than 25% as the second priority. And we're proposing that that would be a 3-month period compared to another 3-month period. We had some conversation offline on seasonal businesses of how to account for those. And so if you're a seasonal business, we thought we had to make a clarification that you could not compare any 3 months to any other 3 months. But if you were a regular business, that would allow you to show your greatest loss. Then the third priority would be businesses that didn't have a loss, but had not yet received any pandemic grant funds. And then fourth priority would be any remaining business. And so one topic of conversation today can be that priority. How do we want to prioritize and measure businesses? And then the other discussion piece is grant amounts and the basis for the distribution. So the guidelines propose using number of employees, that if you have more employees, we will give you more money. And then the last piece is the eligible expenses, but I have found some information with regards to property taxes as being an eligible expense. And so that was the big question I still had going in. Otherwise, I think we have tried to include all of the eligible expenses that there can be. The statute uses the term operations expense. So, Steve, I don't know if that frames it up a little bit. If you want to discuss it in terms of those three discussion points, or if there's another way to approach it.
I don't know if anybody has any comments or discussions or whatever, I guess.
And I know JJ had a question earlier that we pushed back to here, so maybe that'd be.
Yeah, that was just I think you just clarified, right? Property tax is a legitimate expense that will fall under this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was hesitant to include that because the CARES Act money excluded it. And there was a sense that if we included property tax, then that could be viewed as just reimbursing ourselves because we collect a lot of property tax. But DEED does have updated guidelines now. They include the property tax as an eligible expense.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Just so, I just want to just hold that thought. Can you, Matt? Because JJ, I just want to, I had a call from a business owner, and one of the things that he really needs help with is paying his property tax. And so I was interested in making sure that we could get that clarified. So anyway, that's why probably we saw some extra emails.
Thank you, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead. Yeah. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think this is a question for David too, and all of us, I guess. But so are you going to go back when we do decide, or wherever we decide, are you still going to use the same method as you did with the first, with the Initiative Foundation?
Yes, that I would propose that we would continue to work with them. We would be able to use their online application process. Don Hickman would be the primary grant reviewer and determine their eligibility. And then if he had questions, he would reach out to Kelly and me, and we would try to work through any issues that weren't clear.
So I think then that a lot of our businesses probably applied unless they were turned away at the initial application process, or they were denied on the loss. That's which brings me to my next question. Some of those, remember we talked about the barber shops or whatever, they're just one, and what they lose is their salary. They're, hey, you can't be open. And so is that a loss that those small businesses who applied before and were turned away, can they enter into this one? And if so, some of those businesses, the applications should already be kind of in the pipeline. I know they have to be done over again, but.
So yes, the once you have an account with the Initiative Fund for their online program, then you won't have to set up a new account. I'm not understanding your question though. Maybe I'll make a comment and it will clarify the question. So if you have a loss of revenue, that's how we would determine the priority. So if you said during these 3 months this year versus these 3 months last year, I have lost 25% of my revenue, we would say, you're in our top priority category. And then you would submit eligible expenses. And so those eligible expenses could be salary and wages that you paid to employees. They could be property taxes. They could be mortgage or rent payments. They could be supplies that you needed to operate in a pandemic environment. So once you get prioritized, then there's a determination made as to what are your eligible expenses.
You answered my question. I just wanted to make sure it would include wages, for those self-employed businesses. That's all.
Yes, and I know I had one question about that person who was the sole proprietor who took they called it a draw on their business. They didn't call it a wage or a salary. And my belief is that if they made their application on this program and they had, they showed that they had paid themselves some kind of salary, some kind of draw on a regular basis, they could go back to 2020 or 2019 or 2018 and say, look, on an annual basis, I was taking $10,000 a year out of the business for wages for myself. It's just not called wages in my books. We would qualify it.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have a new business in Hinckley that just opened, and it opened right when the doors got shut. So where would they fall in on this?
Depends. Is it a startup or did they buy a business that was existing?
No, it would have been a startup. It had been empty for a little bit.
Without knowing the details, I think it's hard to make a pronouncement. Our goal in having parameters on the program was to not qualify people who were just starting a business in order to cash in on a grant program. But we have been very open to legitimate businesses that started or opened at a bad time, right? So any business that that once we roll out the program, any business that has a question should get a hold of Don Hipkin at the Initiative Foundation is really the best first source, but Kelly and I certainly can help direct people. And then if they're not satisfied with that, then that can work its way out.
Okay. Thank you.
David, a business that didn't apply for whatever reason, and now they've had some help and they know they can apply. They can only apply back to October, right?
That's what we're proposing so that we don't have to have any complicated paperwork to determine whether we've already reimbursed that expense or not. And I guess if the question is, if something happened in October, that pre-October they had eligible expenses, but October 1st to today, they don't have any. I would say they could work with Don to try to figure that out. But the other piece is they probably, unless they've actually gone out of business, they probably still should have some property tax they could claim, some mortgage or lease payment or some utility payments.
Yeah, I know there's some businesses that I've talked to that were confused in the first round of applications and were told stuff that may or may not have been right. And so they didn't complete the application process. And so they have received nothing because they didn't apply, because they didn't think they were eligible. Now they find out they are eligible, but it only is going to go back to the 1st of October. Is that correct?
The way it's drafted, yes. And I'm just trying to think through what the solution is. If they don't have eligible expenses, we potentially could just have a more robust documentation process if you want to claim pre-October 1st expenses. So that but if you didn't get a grant before, then we don't have to worry about that.
I will just encourage them to apply and then they can hammer out the details later.
Yeah, and I would say many folks who applied and worked with Don through their situation, I think walked away encouraged that Don is very skilled at helping people qualify for the maximum they're eligible for. That really is his mission from us.
I do not doubt that at all. I think there's a number of people that own businesses that never got that far to even work with Don in the first place. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and this is a complex new program, right? I mean,
Right.
if you think about going from, we have no grant programs to we have awarded over $1.2 million to local businesses in the last couple of months.
I understand and I'm amazed at the wonderful job that got done in the short amount of time from startup from scratch.
Any feedback on the amounts of the grants? We're trying to make a best crystal ball estimate of being sure that there's enough money to spend on, a lot of all the businesses who might be eligible. So we don't run out of money, but also making sure that the awards are sizable enough that those who had a 25% or more loss of revenue get money that's going to help carry them through until we can be back to normal again.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So I spoke with quite a few recipients of these different grants, and some of them almost have said it's been way more than enough. Some of them not enough, and some of them just right. So if that answers the question of no, it doesn't make any sense on what's good or what's not. But the biggest thing I fear is you miss the little things. There's certain businesses out there that are just in the middle that, they're not on programs. They're not listed as a bar, restaurant, bowling alley, fitness center, or movie theater, but hugely affected by this outbreak. So them are the things that myself personally, that I know a few of them have been trying to work with them to make sure they're accessible. And I know Don has worked with one. There's 3 or 4 owners, and they're all siblings, and all 3 of them gave me a huge hug and were crying when they received the one, because I think they've lost over half of their staff and just trying to keep the business open. So and they got a very small amount as far as I know. So, and they said that was the difference between them closing their doors and staying open, so I don't know. I know we've got a lot of work to do, but I've been trying to hit up as many people as I can just to see, not necessarily being nosy what they got, but is it adequate or was it, that type of stuff. So most people are pretty happy with what's been going on. So if we can continue on down that road, we'll see what happens. So.
I agree, Josh. I think we're probably hit close to being right on before, because we got all 3. We got just rights. We got not enough. We got more than I expected. So I think we were kind of right in the middle.
Okay, and then maybe just one last direct question it's a gateway question. And we have a minimum of at least $10,000 in revenue in 2019 or 2020 to be eligible, as trying to make a recognition that some businesses are more hobby than they are income generating. And we're trying to focus on the businesses that are the income generating businesses. And that is somewhat of an arbitrary decision, but I just want to make sure that if we do that, then we're doing it with knowledge that we're doing it.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I agree about that too. So,
I have one more question, please.
Yep, go ahead.
On the draft on page 1, it says property management companies or landlords are eligible to apply. So that was a big one when I talked to a bar owner who had an apartment upstairs in the bar. And he said that you can't evict them, you know, you have to keep them in there, but he hadn't been getting rent. That Lakes and Pines has money that they're giving to the renters to pay their landlords, but if they're not using it to pay their landlords, for them to qualify for this, they have to, I know it says that they have to agree to forgo any collection of the unpaid rent. Is there a certain period of the unpaid rent? I mean, if they're gonna get, you know.
Yeah, we did fund, some landlords previously. And so we required that if the grant covered a month's rent, whatever it was, or 3 months' rent, that they would forego collecting that period, so it was a like amount.
Okay.
So that they could, in essence, our concern is we don't want to give a grant of public money to a landlord who then in the future collects for that same period of time from the tenant.
Okay, gotcha.
And I know the grant, we worked with Lakes and Pines on doing some housing assistance. And for the program we were working with, they were supposed to be paying the landlord directly, not the tenant, but the landlord sending and letting the tenant know that they had paid the rent.
Okay. Good.
And then
I believe, David, that is how all of their programs work. I believe.
Yeah, and rental, there's a lot of complexity and issues with rental properties, with the eviction moratoriums, and those landlords, those property owners have expenses that they have to pay. Property taxes, of course, being one of them, but utilities and maintaining a safe property. And some of them have called me as well. So hopefully, we'll be able to fund some that need it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I was amazed how many rental units there were. Becky Schuler gave a number the other day at that meeting, David. Do you remember what it was? In Pine City, 800 or something like that. It was amazing. Any more on that?
No, I just appreciate the thoughts and the feedback, and we'll work to finalize the program and then work with the Initiative Foundation to roll it out as quick as we can. And it certainly won't be before the end of next week, but I don't want to promise that until I can talk to the Initiative Foundation to see what this is going to work.
Thanks. We'll move on to commissioner updates. For our new commissioners, this part of the program has been the most valuable, I think, to all of us. And that is, if you attend a meeting on behalf of Pine County, we expect that we're going to get a report back, so we all kind of know just a short little recap of what happened. So if somebody asks you what's going on at Lakes and Pines, and you're not the Lakes and Pines person, you don't just say, "Well, I don't know, I don't go to those meetings." That you have a clue at least. So anyway, Pine Tech had this Work Fast program, and they had their graduation from the welding, business computer, and auto tech program right before Christmas. I attended the welding graduation. It was an awesome little program. I believe they had 8 or 10 people that graduated out of that program. And they were all there, I believe. And it was on the way out, a couple of them stopped to thank me, thank the county, not me, to thank the county for thinking of funding such a program. And the one gal is now enrolled as a full-time welding student. She's going to make a career out of welding and get out of being a retail clerk and she sees a future in welding for her, and she can stay in East Central Minnesota. There are jobs waiting right now for welders, and they pay considerably better than standing behind the counter at Holiday. So, and another guy was, I would just in his late 40s or so, getting retained. He'd welded his whole life, but needed to freshen up so he could honestly say, yes, I know how to weld. And so he had a job waiting for him. So that's pretty awesome. And I believe actually all the graduates had an opportunity to go to work after that program. Josh, did you get to the AutoTech one?
Yep, I was invited to that one. I did go there. I think they graduated 11. And they had already had, I think 3 of them were going to enroll into the 2-year program. And they were working on a few other ones, but it was the same thing. There was new high school graduates or younger people to, a few older ones. And they were all extremely excited. A lot of thank you to the county and to the board for funding that. So yeah, they're pretty excited. So and the instructor is actually one of the instructors at the 2-year program. He said he made the comment. He had made it to me personally before, and that the deal that he wished that his 2-year students had the same enthusiasm as the WorkFast students. So he goes, they never missed it. He goes, they almost worked me too hard. He wasn't used to his Fridays being there with them because his other students didn't ask as many questions and work that hard. So he said he liked it because he likes that kind of stuff. But it was interesting, and they're going to have another round starting, I believe, next week.
I believe so.
They have 9 or 10 already enrolled in that, and then it's a different instructor too. So I know him very well too. So it'll be interesting to see the change, the dynamics or whatever. So, but yeah, it was good.
Thanks, Josh. Arrowhead Counties was canceled. Regional Development Commission, I believe that got rolled into the legislative roundtable. David and I attended the legislative roundtable. Did you take good notes, David?
I did not take good notes, but I was a little disappointed in that it wasn't clear what the priorities were going to be for this upcoming session. There was a lot of stump speechifying versus here's our legislative priorities. So I maybe tuned out a little sooner than you did.
No, it was, I thought, pretty vanilla. It's, and I don't know if they, in a year like this, until they get the February forecast, they're kind of spinning their wheels at the state legislators and because they don't know, they won't have any targets for a long time of what their money target's going to be. So I don't know. I think we know what we will keep hammering away at our priorities. And
all right, I did find my notes. Broadband. Everybody talked about broadband.
Yep.
Lack thereof.
County program and county program aid and what's the city's aid called? Anyway,
local government aid, LGA.
LGA is of course on every elected official's mind because we certainly don't want to go backwards. When we look at a tough budget year, you're just hoping not to go backwards.
And Mark Corin talked about the North Branch wireless project that when he was talking about it, it made me think of what Moose Lake has with a fixed base wireless as an alternative to last mile. And I do remember thinking that that might be something to follow up with North Branch and see what exactly they did.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I got a quick question too about broadband. I know at one time we had a meeting scheduled with, was it CenturyLink?
Yes.
Did and then that got canceled or whatever? Was that something
We're still trying to get a meeting together with CenturyLink, who is the carrier from about Hinkley South.
Okay.
We haven't accomplished that yet.
No, but maybe,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, maybe we can expand our group a little bit. Dustin Gosland, who is with Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, is now on the Blandon board. And he has made broadband a priority of his. And so I wonder, maybe we can try to use Blandon and his position to help us leverage CenturyLink to the table.
Well,
that's what, we asked Brandon to do that when he went to Blandon the next time, which is going to be this week, I believe.
Yeah, it definitely is something that I hear every single day, even in my own household. I've had, I got 2 kids that are doing distance learning there, and it's almost impossible. And I live on a nice Blacktop County road, which I do have DSL to my house, but it's not good enough to run this stuff. So, and my neighbors don't even have it. I was in Montana last weekend, stayed in a town that's 45 miles off the freeway. And there's no town in between, and they had better broadband than most of us have. So I find it I think at some point, maybe that's part of our strategic plan too, is I think as a county, gonna have to just do something about it. And if we want something better for the people here, but it's definitely number 1 on my list that I hear the most of.
Yep, I would agree. NLX was canceled. Housing Redevelopment Authority.
Yes, I had a meeting. And Mr. Chair, I'll just go into my meeting from yesterday too, because it's not on there in the Magi.
Yeah.
If that's okay, I'll do both.
Yep.
We had our meeting on the 30th of December. And first comment is Mary Kay Sloan is a great addition to this board, and asked just great questions, and ignites a little spark, which is a good thing.
Good. Yeah.
The gist of the meeting was mostly just financial, their financial planning with their assets and getting those in order. But for the new commissioners, we do have a Pine County wide housing and redevelopment authority, and the group manages 2 elderly housings. One's in Sandstone, one's in Finlayson. They have 30 people living in them now, with 2 vacancies in there. It's not very often they have vacancies. So other than that, Mr. Chair, it was just a general quick meeting with minor stuff with buildings, etc. So any questions there, I'll move on to Nemadji.
Go ahead.
Okay, we had an Nemadji 1 watershed 1 planning meeting yesterday, and is Reese? Can you guys see? Is Reese still on the call or the?
On there?
Okay,
Yes.
I don't know if he is or not, but I'll get up with him later. So we
There
had
he
a
is.
meeting, and the main gist of this meeting was to get our memorandum of agreement done, which our county attorney needs to review, which I think Caleb already sent the thing to them, and we voted in our 2-year plan. Outline that with streams, wetlands, forests, ag, lakes, etc., groundwater. And we really don't have a lot in the Nemadji, but we do have like 7 to 8 miles of road with our North County county line, and then County Road 174, which is a state aid road. So if we do get to bridge work or culvert work, some of this stuff might come into play with our county engineer on that, so. Other than that, and I will make sure I just talk to Mark about that and make him aware of it, which I'm sure he probably is, so. And so that's it, pretty much general meeting, so. You're muted, Steve.
There we go. Where'd Reese go now? I was just gonna tease Reese. I thought he'd be standing in front of a cactus or something. Anyway, I went to the rural county meeting yesterday, and the rural counties is it's kind of an offshoot of AMC. It was started years ago, and counties, some of the mostly it was southwestern counties thought they were not represented as well as they should be, and they're almost like an affiliate of AMC. But we joined a couple years ago. Some of their issues that they have are different than ours, but we do have a lot of similarities. And one of the big things they talked about yesterday was transportation, and we heard a couple of great presentations from, one was the Polk County engineer, and one was a guy from the Great Plains Institute. And basically, we're in for a train wreck in transportation funding. It's kind of, Mark has been warning about this for years. There's the constitutionally dedicated funding. That fund is not kept up with construction and with maintenance issues. And now in this pandemic year, we're gonna expect they are expecting about a 15 to 20% decrease in our state aid funds. Well, we get I think Mark's gone now, but I think roughly about $8 million. They'll knock off 15% of that. We're going to be down $1 million in Pine County for CASA roads. That's significant because part of that money goes for construction costs, and we can kick that can down the road. But part of it, 40% of it, goes to maintenance, and that's our workforce. That's our grader blades. That's how we maintain roads, you know. So we know that's gonna be impactful to our, probably we'll see it in our 2022 budget more than this year. We did see it a little bit this year. But Mark has told us this for years, but this Polk County engineer said, 12 years ago when he started in Polk County, they bought bituminous overlay for $18 a ton, and now it's $54 a ton. And the state aid payment system has not changed. So you just do that many less miles of road. That's all there is to it. And so we get behind, and I know some of you have voiced your concern that in the past we've got roughly 400 miles of tarred roads in Pine County. If you do try to replace them every 20 years, we've had a lot of years where we haven't done. If you do the math, you have to do more than we're doing to keep up at a 20 to 25 year thing. Mark knows that. He's just doing the best he can. So that's kind of it. It's going to be a battle to figure out where we're going to get more money. The other big issue is broadband on rural counties in their priority list. The broadband initiative is we help support that both through AMC and through rural counties. They have upped the ask to let's get serious about this, to put money in the base. And they're asking for this first year for $120 million to kickstart broadband development in rural Minnesota. And it's, you know, the estimate that the has been given about 2 years ago was about a $2 billion bill to build out Minnesota. We can't do that in 1 year. And if you do the math on it, even at 100 million a year, if it's 2 billion, it's going to take us a while to get there. But we can certainly make a dent in it. If we have state grant money, maybe we can leverage that against some of our carriers and county and get better service than we got now for the people, the residents of Pine County. A couple other, where I said they're different than us is they do a thing called county-based purchasing in a lot of these counties, and that's where they buy, they basically are their own service provider. And so for people that are on MA and such, we are not involved with that. So, and we don't have county hospitals, county-run hospitals in this neck of the woods, so except in Kanabec County. Let's see. They are also concerned about preserving the tax base, which we all are. And they were very concerned about the regulatory authority over public drainage ditches, because if you get to Renville County and some of those counties, they have more public drainage ditches than they have miles of roads. And that's where their big controversies are. So they're concerned about who has the last say in determining what can and cannot be done in county right-of-ways. So that's about it for rural counties. For the new commissioners, you'll see it on your commissioner calendar. You're all invited. They do meet in person, but they have always had the option for electronic call-ins. Since the pandemic, the electronic version has been much better than it was when you just called into a meeting. And so it's gone quite well. And it's sure a heck of a lot better than driving out to Glenwood or someplace for a 2-hour meeting. That's all I have.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Could I have one other that has just dawned on me as I've sat here? So
Yes.
Earlier in the meeting, when we set the meetings for the rest of the year, we changed the date of the personnel committee from where it met last year to this year. So now it's meeting on the Monday instead of the Tuesday. And when I look at next Tuesday, we have our strategic planning meeting scheduled to start at 10:30 because we were going to do that after the personnel committee. I am just wondering if it makes sense to start next Tuesday at 9 o'clock, a little bit earlier, rather than 10:30, since we won't have a personnel committee meeting. Steve, you're muted if you're talking to us.
Does everybody think if we move that start time to 9 o'clock instead of 10:30?
That works for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. 9 o'clock at Sandstone, correct?
Yes.
And that's an in-person meeting?
Well, it's your choice. We were gonna do it remote, but we could do it in person, I think.
I'm gonna try to be there. I would like, even if the new commissioners are behind a mask, I would like to touch base with them at least, but that's,
So that
that's
room,
legal, right?
Yep, that room would work very well if commissioners, if we wanted to have more commissioners in person. I think we could still do some of the presentations of department heads remotely because we have good technology. And that way we wouldn't have to be all in the same room, but we'll work towards that for next Tuesday.
Okay. 9 o'clock.
Are you gonna adjust the calendar on the commissioner calendar, Dave?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, see the upcoming meetings, and I will get the, I've got my little cheat sheet made out here. I'll drop it off for Debbie today when she tells me she's got stuff ready to sign. I'll stop in there and sign it. And then she'll shoot out the committee assignment sheet. If there's a problem with the committee that you're on, let me know right away and we'll work it out. If there's no other business to come before the board, we'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Yep. Thank you.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
I am ready for you whenever it works. So if you want, do you still want to come?
Okay, I got a couple of things that have popped up here that I gotta take care of and then I'll be in.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Okay, thank you.